First off, I don't hate Hublot. Most people do. I do not. Don't kill me yet. I'll explain as we go through. One of the watch brands that's out there that has a lot of people that hate it. And I don't hate it.
Hublot has its own category, right? We'll put that in the Hublot category. Because there is indeed something worse than a trash can.
And I want to talk through exactly why that is, focusing on this specific Hublot model. And Hublot is a French word, and which was why I'm butchering the name, and it means porthole. So it was taking the nautical theme that was happening in the 70s with the Nautilus and the Royal Oak and putting it on a specific brand. This is actually the first Swiss brand to come out with a natural rubber strap. It took 3 years for them to engineer, they came out with it, and then eventually when they went to Basel World that year, then sales started to take off, doing 2 million that first year. Now the company kind of was there, but it wasn't really a big player until about 2004. In 2004, Jean-Claude Biver, who was originally worked with Audemars Piguet and then worked with Omega, giving them their first connection to James Bond and creating that whole relationship, who had taken Blancpain, which was this heritage brand, and made it worth millions of dollars, then left Omega and shortly later worked for Hublot as the CEO and a minority shareholder. Now, shortly after his arrival, he came out with the Big Bang, which is what grew Hublot like crazy. Their sales increased threefold. Following his arrival in 2004, the brand did 24 million in revenue. By the end of 2006, their sales were close to 100 million Swiss francs. So what could be attributed to this a massive success other than branding? And he focused primarily on football associations, and that's soccer for people in America, football for everyone else in the entire world. He focused on making sure that it had presence in places that everyday people watched. You can watch speeches of Jean-Claude Biver talking about how the watch industry would sponsor golf or F1 or all these places where all these rich people went. And he thought, well, what if I just associate the brand around sporting events that normal people go to, and they can aspire to have this brand? It was genius, and the marketing and the introduction to the Big Bang exploded the company. In 2008, LVMH bought the company, and at that time you can watch this clip from Jean-Claude Biver talking about the size of Hublot at the time.
And LVMH said, do you do 220 million? Yes. Do you do 49.6 million profit? Yes. You have no debts? No. Okay, I pay 10 times profit, 496 million. And LVMH buy in 3 weeks.
220 million in revenue and 49.6 million in net profit. That's a 22% net profit. Now, if you're not into the business world, that is insane. That is a ridiculously high net profit. And because of that net profit, they had no debt. They were running a whole cash business in watchmaking with that big of margins. And this is why people hate Hublot. Now, some people may hate Hublot because of the size or the designs or anything else, but most people hate the company because of their pricing. Now, this is where the Square Bang, as it's called, comes in. This one's a titanium version. This is a 42 millimeter watch. Now, the Square Bang inside it has not a base caliber Sellita movement. It has the Unico 2, and this is a modified version of another movement that Hublot actually made in-house. And this is a horizontal clutch column wheel chronograph movement. And the 2 is only different from the original Unico because it has now a thinner profile. It has, and I have to say that the movement seems quite well constructed. From what I can tell, what I can look at from inside the case back, I haven't taken it apart myself, but it looks relatively well constructed. The actual function of it, the feel of the movement, the start-stop on the column wheel is very sound. It's very easy to operate. I actually really enjoyed the actual mechanism and the way that it functioned. The wearability of the watch is a little questionable. Now, I personally can pull off the watch. I could wear it. It would fit with my overall style for the most part. It's a little large. It's not my preference. I wouldn't pick it out of a lineup of things to wear on a day-to-day basis, but it's not too big for me, I suppose. I think the introduction of the titanium and rubber definitely is appealing to me. I like that general design layout. Yes, I sometimes prefer having full stainless steel bracelets, but I don't have a problem with rubber straps. I grew up wearing rubber straps, so that's not an issue. So the watch itself that I'm looking at here, the Square Bang watch that Hublot has come out with, doesn't jump out to me and say, you hate it. I actually liked it. When I visited Moyer and they handed it to me, I was interested in the watch. I kind of looked at it and I thought, I'll definitely look at this a little bit closer and talk about it on the channel. The more I had time with it, the more I actually developed an interest in the overall watch. Now, I'm not probably going to buy one, and the reason why is the same reason we talked about earlier, and that's the pricing. This watch is $24,000. And there's a lot of watches you can buy for $24,000. My entire collection is worth less than $24,000. And I don't have the kind of money to just toss at a watch like this. And I typically would buy other watches instead of something like this. And I think that is where people dislike the company. Sure, a lot of their designs are similar to one another. It's all black and gray styles. It's all a lot of titanium and rubber with brush finishes, with exposed screws, skeleton dials. It's very much a design flavor that's oriented towards them. They know what they're good at, they know what people like, and they hit it time and time again. But it's not my design. It's not the design that I would pick. It's not something that I would wear on a day-to-day basis. Now, if it had a lower price point, let's imagine a world where this specific watch was sold for about $8,000. Closer, a little higher than a Speedmaster, but closer to the general price point of something like an Omega Speedmaster. I think people would buy this like crazy. I think it gives them a modern design flavor that people are interested in, especially in the Richard Mille era. It looks a lot like stuff like that, but what I think turns a lot of people off, at least normal watch geeks like you and me, is the price point. You might even be able to get away with $10,000 for this. It's around the Daytona price range. It's around the Zenith Chronomaster lineup price range. And for something like that, you may be able to get that kind of price point. But for, 2.5 times that price, you're probably not talking to the normal layman. You're probably talking to people that have a lot of money and buy a lot of watches, or 1 or 2 watches, and Hublot has a lot of marketing out there that people are interested in, and so they buy one. So how do I feel about Hublot? I don't have a problem with the company. I actually respect what Jean-Claude Biver did with the company, the way he was growing it, the cash involved, the way he got it out of debt and expanded the company incredibly rapidly. That to me is interesting. That's why I've watched interviews of him talking about his endeavors through the watch industry. That being said, the watch geek inside me says it's way too much money for what is in the watch. I respect the brand positioning and what they've done with the company, but I won't be buying one. Definitely not at those prices. Now, at the lower end, maybe someday, but probably not someday soon. I have an interest in other watches. Do me a favor and subscribe. What do you guys think about Hublot? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks again to Moyer for letting me visit and see this watch. What would you think if it was half the price? I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.